Welcome, Roomers and Zoomers, to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Jan Mabey, and I am your worship associate today. I am joined by Reverend Sian Wiltshire, our minister, and Beth Syverson, our director of music ministries, in welcoming you this morning. Karen Magoon Pearson, our director of religious education, is currently holding classes for our children and youth at Estancia Park. Please note on the screen all the wonderful people who's made today's service possible. We also respectfully recognize that our church property rests on Hashiman and Tongva land. As Unitarian Universalists, we have many different beliefs, but we are one loving community. Together we covenant that whatever our beliefs, we accept one another and encourage each other in spiritual growth. We affirm that all life has inherent value and that all existence is interconnected. We strive for justice and compassion in our deeds and relationships, and we are committed to creating a welcoming community without regard to the traits that sometimes divide people. To our roomers, we invite you to silence your cell phones. For our Zoomers, we invite you to say hello in the chat. Because of our current circumstances, when songs appear on the screen, roomers are invited to sway with the music, while Zoomers, of course, you can sing along. I want to extend a special welcome to visitors. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you will find it here. Later in the service, we will have an opportunity for you to introduce yourself if you'd like to do so. Let our worship begin with the lighting of our chalice as we say our unison affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. This we affirm together.
Good morning. Our opening song is Turn the World Around. Roomers, I'm going to invite you to clap along if you are interested and able, or just enjoy. And Zoomers, please clap and sing along. Yeah, good. We come from the fire, living in the fire, go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water, go back to the water, turn the world around. We
Today's service, we're talking about transcendentalism, and so I wanted to start off with these words by Margaret Fuller, who was a transcendentalist. And if you have no idea what that big word means, don't worry, I'll explain it later. But the wonderful Margaret Fuller wrote this. She said, "All around us lies what we neither understand nor use. Our capacities, our instincts for this present sphere are but half developed. Let us then confine ourselves to the present moment until the lesson is learned. Let us be completely natural before we trouble ourselves with the supernatural. I never see any of these supernatural things, but I long to get away and lie under a green tree and let the wind blow on me. There is marvel and charm enough in that for me."
Things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. I'm not the mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that caused me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light. 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 Yeah. I am light. I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I am not my race. My soul inside is all light. All light. Oh, light. Yeah. Oh, light. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light. Yeah. I am divinity defined. I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light.
So one could say that Indiari is a transcendentalist in the way she views things. Our reading this morning comes from Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was one of the most foremost transcendentalists, and if you didn't know, he was also a Unitarian minister. He wrote an essay called The Oversoul back in the 19th century, and this is a time when many people, including Emerson, were trying to find a different way of understanding this very real human experience that people have of, we might call it mysticism, but it was more kind of an everyday mysticism. So this is what he wrote. I invite you I'm going to read it through twice, and the first time just listen to what he has to say. He says, each human being is a stream whose source is hidden. Our being is descending into us from we know not whence. Let us learn the revelation of all nature and thought, that the highest dwells within us, that the sources of nature are in our own minds. As there is no screen or ceiling between our heads and the infinite heavens, so there is no bar or wall in the soul where we cease and God begins. There is a deep power in which we exist, whose beatitude is accessible to us. Every moment when the individual feels invaded by it is memorable. It comes to the lowly and simple. It comes to whosoever will put off what is foreign and proud. It comes as insight. It comes as serenity and grandeur. Within us is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty, to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. When it breaks into our intellect, it is genius. When it breathes through our will, it is virtue. When it flows through our affection, it is love. This morning, I want to invite you, all of you, into just a moment of meditation. I invite you even to kind of close your eyes, to not necessarily watch me as I'm reading this. I'm going to read it through again, and I want you to listen to what he's trying to say and watch your own reaction to it. For example, does it resonate? I mean, I know he's using kind of some, 19th century language, but is there something in it that resonates with you? Is there a word or a phrase? Or maybe you're thinking, it's just a bit too woo-woo for me, right? All right, I'm going to read this again. Deep breaths. Each human being is a stream whose source is hidden. Our being is descending into us from we know not whence. Let us learn the revelation of all nature and thought, that the highest dwells within us, that the sources of nature are in our own minds. There is no screen or ceiling between our heads and the infinite heavens, so there is no bar or wall in the soul where we cease and God begins. There is a deep power in which we exist and whose beatitude, whose grace is accessible to us. Every moment when the individual feels invaded by it is memorable. It comes to the lowly and simple. It comes to whoever will put off what is foreign and proud. It comes as insight. It comes as serenity and grandeur. Within us is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty, to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. When it breaks through our intellect, it is genius. When it breathes through our will, it is virtue. When it flows through our affection, it is love. When you're ready, please join Beth and Susan in singing or swaying.
Reconnect.
reconnect the soul of me, the whole of me, the whole of me.
So you might not be aware, chances are you're probably not, because I didn't know this actually, that exactly to this day, 185 years ago, I believe it was 1836, was the founding of the Transcendentalist Club in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Anybody here knew that? Yeah, no, okay, that's all right. So this was, the reason why this is kind of important, it was a really seminal moment for our denominations as Unitarians, because it kind of came out of that tradition. It was started by many Unitarian ministers, including Ralph Waldo Emerson, and some other sort of notable ones. There was William Ellery Channing, we'll talk about him some other time, but other people, they weren't necessarily ministers and they weren't necessarily Unitarians, like Henry David Thoreau was part of this group. And these were all at the time, we tend to think of them as these kind of older guys with these white hair, whatever, but they were all really young sort of whippersnappers at the time, and they were getting together because they wanted to, you know, talk about and bemoan the state of their country and of their Unitarian faith. They kind of got together to kind of kvetch about things. Because, you see, they were actually really rather frustrated with the Unitarian Church in many ways, the liberal church at that time. For those of you who don't know, I mean, in this modern times, the Unitarian Church, you know, we're actually now Unitarian Universalists, right? We're very different. We've evolved and changed a lot. But back in the 19th century, in the New England area, was our, like, power heyday. I mean, you know, we had John Quincy Adams who had been elected as president. We had Fillmore who was president, both Unitarians. We were the power brokers, and quite frankly, we were kind of elitist. Those are just a reality. We were highly educated, wealthy to upper middle class people who got together. And so they were saying, what happens when you get that kind of a world together is that, you know, things get kind of dry, right? Like the sermons were very intellectual. This communion thing they would do, they did communion back then. The Unitarian Church was rote, and they didn't feel that it had any meaning anymore, right? They wanted speeches that touched the heart, not just the head. And so in short, they were yearning for some spirituality. They wanted something to change that touched the heart. And that's when, you know, you get a bunch of young people together and they start a little bit of a revolution, which is really awesome. Now, they were all from different walks of life and everything. They had different ideas about how to go about to do this sort of spiritual revolution, this religious revolution, but they did agree on three things as transcendentalists. So the three things that make up how transcendentalist thinks is that one is that we are all holy, or as India Ari would say, we're all light, okay? That we have that deep power within us, that all of humanity, and it didn't matter, like all humanity, male, female, black, white, whatever, rich, poor, everybody had this access to the holy, and we're holy. The second was that we as humanity are then one, right? We're all, they called it the brotherhood of man, but we probably wouldn't use that language these days, but we would say we're all one in this together, one humanity. The second was that the sacred and the holy is to be experienced among one another, but really in nature. They saw sitting under a tree, a beautiful sunset, all of those things as where you can find these moments of incredible connection with the holy. Now, does that seem radical to you? I don't know, when I first heard it, I was like, oh, that sounds nice. I'm kind of right there with them. I got, you know, that sort of thing. But back then, it was incredibly radical, right? People are equal before God. They have God inside them. Ooh. Oh my goodness. Well, what does that say then about Jesus? Well, wait a minute. People are equal for God. Well, then why not we give women the vote and free slaves if we're all equal? And nature is where God is? Well, what about the church? I thought, well, that was where we found God. Ooh, this was radical stuff. Radical stuff. Now, you can imagine that when you get a bunch of liberals together and they're chatting, because we all have a bunch of different ideas. We've all been in committee meetings, right? We all know we have different ideas, right? That they're going to argue and disagree about different things. And there were sort of two factions that came out of transcendentalism that I thought was just kind of an interesting thing. The first was what I call the internally focused transcendentalists. So things like Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau were of this type. Basically, they like to philosophize, they like to write about things, they like to give speeches, but they felt that if you want to change the world, start with the man in the mirror, right? Change yourself, and then you can change the world. Now, the second transcendentalist factor, I call them more the externally focused people. This is people like Margaret Fuller and a gentleman by the name of William C. Neal, which you may not have heard much of. He's been lost in the transcendentalist history, but he played an incredibly vital role. He was the first African-American civil servant, integrated Massachusetts schools, was a writer, philosopher, an incredible influence on people in transcendentalism, particularly bringing abolitionism to the forefront of the transcendentalist minds at that time. But of course, you know, kind of was, for lack of a better word, whitewashed in history. So you get a chance to learn about him. He was absolutely incredible. Now, the interesting thing about Neal and Fuller, right, is what? They're different from Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, right? They're not white or male. The people who tended to go inward tended to be people who were privileged. They could do that. I mean, Henry David Thoreau, he could go out to Walden Pond and, you know, hang out for a year or whatever and philosophize. I mean, that was great. And I don't want to say there's anything wrong with that. He did some incredible work. He wrote Civil Disobedience, right? Like, he did some incredible things, right? But it was the women and the people of color who really brought it to the forefront of, like, okay, if we're one, let's talk about the rights of women. Let's talk about slavery, right? So I love how Fuller put it. She said, "Only the dreamer shall understand realities, though in truth their dreaming must not be out of proportion to their waking." That was a little dig at Emerson. So, now, like all movements within, you try to change or shake up the status quo, right? There's going to be a backlash. And the establishment of the Unitarian Church, quite frankly, was not happy. These were the young whippersnappers, right? These were not the ones who were in power at the time. And so many Unitarian ministers actually were ostracized. Theodore Parker, they tried to actually oust him from the Unitarian Church. But it had the opposite effect. And in fact, Theodore Parker, he was a Unitarian minister, was famous for having a gun in his desk when he wrote his sermons because he ran the Underground Railroad through Cambridge. So he was always hiding runaway slaves. And he actually had one of our very first mega churches. He literally had to speak through a megaphone that he had to get his voice out there. There were thousands of people would flock to hear him speak. Because the Transcendentalists had touched upon something that they didn't realize that everybody in the pews really wanted and needed, was this sense of connection to something more than just their head. So in 185 years later, so here we are as Unitarian Universalists, we kind of ends up, I don't know if you noticed, in our very first source of wisdom for our living tradition, we say, right, the direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder. That comes directly out of our transcendentalism history. Now, why bring this all up? Because I think as a denomination that we need to remember these roots and then remember that we are all holy beings, right? And that the sacred is all around us. Now, we're going through a transformation of our own as a denomination. We're doing an incredible amount of work around multiculturalism and anti-racism work, right? And this is, people, this is holy work. It's hard work, and it's holy. It requires us to be better than we were, to really open and crack open our hearts to hear things that maybe are painful to hear, but also to see the beauty that exists in those moments of revelation. But what I have seen often in our denomination is that instead of seeing the holy in one another, we want to judge one another. We jump down people's throats. Oh, you can't say that, right? That's too judgmental. They're judging. I'm more woke than that person over there. I'm really woke. Let me give you my credentials. These are all of the workshops that I've been to. I'm woke, right? And the problem is that we get so into our head that we forget to think with our heart in these things, that we're all in this together, that we are one, that we are all holy, and we're all learning and becoming. And it's not about giving up our intellect, it's about reconnecting to the whole of who we are. The soul of me, the whole of me. I joined the Unitarian Universalist Church 20 years ago because, in part, I wanted an intellectual approach to religion, right? I didn't want superstition, I didn't want dogma, and I didn't want judgment. I wanted science. I wanted justice. I wanted practical solutions to today's problems. I wanted to both grow as a person and to be challenged and to help the world become a better place. And I also want to be reminded that the holy resides within each one of us. I want mystery and mysticism. It's easy to stay in that intellectual place, much harder to remember our hearts, but that is actually where change begins, right? We can know what's right, but until we get it in here, it just stays up here. Now, most people think that mysticism is like this really big thing that happens to you, right? Like maybe you're Thomas Merton standing there in what is it? I can't remember, Louisville, Kentucky. He's standing on the corner and he has this amazing thing. He was this Catholic monk, really cool guy. And he's standing on this corner of Louisville, Kentucky, and he's like, I looked around me and suddenly I felt one with everyone. And everyone was walking around as if they were full of light everywhere. And I'm like, wow, I've stand on that same corner. They have a little plaque for him there. I didn't have that experience. Yeah. Or maybe you think it's supposed to be like Saint Teresa, right? That famous sculpture of her. I saw it when I was in Italy this summer, of her, she's laying back in this sort of orgasmic ecstasy, as she communes with God. And I'm thinking, wow, if we all could commune with God like that, we'd all do it, Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if we could all have those experiences? But that's not what Emerson and Fuller and Neal were talking about when they talked about a direct relationship with the holy or the oversoul or whatever you want to call it. I don't know of any of them talking about some big moment that they had. It's those little moments, like what Margaret Fuller said in our opening words, I just want to lie down under a tree and feel the breeze. There is marvel and charm enough in that for me, right? They talk about walking in nature, feeling at peace. They talk about admiring a sunset. They spoke of the connection that they felt with those who were enslaved or who were suffering. They didn't see their relationship with the holy as outside of themselves, but within, as part of how they saw the world. It came deep within them. As Emerson says, he says, the highest dwells within us, that the sources of nature are in our own minds. Or let me put this a little bit into Emerson modern speech. He said, when it breaks through our minds, it is inspiration. When it breathes through our will, it is the courage to act. When it flows through our connection to others, it is compassion. And every religion in the world out there has a spiritual arm to it, because eventually religions get kind of stale, right? They go through the rote things initially. I'm sure when Jesus first did communion, it had deep meaning. But you do it for 2,000 years and it starts losing a little bit of its luster. You know what I'm saying, right? But every single religion has this, right? So the Jewish faith has the Kabbalah, right? The Christians have the Christian mystics, right? For Islam, it's the Sufis. Even Buddhism has a mystical arm around, they share with Hinduism the tantric and shamanic practices. Every religion has this because they recognize that dogma and traditions and being in the head doesn't cover all of the human experience. Now, the Unitarians, they had transcendentalism. This was their kind of big moment. So I gotta wonder then, what's it gonna be for the Unitarian Universalists? Do we have a spiritual arm? Is there a part of us that longs for that? What might it look like? And I do think that actually we do have everyday mystical experiences. Each one of us. Only we just don't call it mysticism or spirituality. We don't call it God or justice, though you could if you wanted to. Here's some examples of everyday mystical experiences, and I'm willing to bet each of you have had something like this. Say, anytime you look at your grandchildren and you see just the centuries of ancestors in them coming through and the potential for your descendants. Maybe it's sometime when you recognize that homeless person over there and you think, oh my God, that could be my child. Oh wait, that is someone's child. Maybe it's sometime when you humbly admit, oh man, I messed up. I'm so sorry. I'm so wrong. I was wrong to think that. And you commit to changing. All of these are mystical experiences. All of these are spiritual experiences. That spiritual moment, that sense of connection to something larger is a mystical experience. It basically calls us to act, to grow, to become. It calls us to speak out, to help us change the world for the better. So what do we call this as Unitarian Universalists? I know you know the answer to this because I preach on it all the time, right? It's love. Whenever love comes to us, that's when we have spiritual or mystical experiences. You don't have to call it that. I like to call it that. Now, love is a pretty innocuous and overused word. I just want to put that out there, like I get it. But it's one that speaks to our hearts, not necessarily our heads. We have a lot of head stuff. We've got science. We've got justice work. We love practical solutions to the world problems. But it isn't our head that's going to change the world. People don't change until their heart does. Now, I'm not advocating that every person go out there and become a mystic. Although if you want to, that's cool too. But I want to encourage you to ask yourself, what does love ask of you? Does it ask you to walk humbly or arrogantly through the world? Does it ask you to listen or to talk? Does it ask you to open your mind or to close it? What does love call you to? Because sometimes we can just stay stuck in our heads, right? We can have some lovely experiences, but unless they call us to act, they just sort of stay there as these lovely experiences, like, St. Teresa, like, ooh, that felt really good. But no. Let me give you an example, okay? So how many people here, online, in the room, how many of you love being in nature? Right, yeah, pretty much everybody. Okay, yeah, we love to go see a sunset, walk on the beach, hug a tree maybe, plant a garden, all those things. All right, so then, let me ask you this. How many of you take care of the environment? How many of you recycle? Reduce your plastics, and actively reduce your carbon footprint? A lot of people, yeah. But it's not easy, is it? To set that all up, to make that happen. But that's what moving it into our heart, not just our, oh, that's a lovely experience, can actually move us to. Another example, we might all think of ourselves as anti-racist. Of course, who here would ever consider themselves a racist? I mean, come on, right? But do we speak out when we hear it in our workplace, out at the store, right? It's kind of where the rubber meets the road. It's hard, it's really hard, it's scary. This is why we need a relationship with love. When we're afraid or nervous, we don't know what to do about a situation, just ask yourself, okay, what is love calling me to in this moment? Because what the transcendentalists tell us is that the answer is inside of us. We have the answers if we could just listen to that deep power in us. Now, here's one thing that I think the early transcendentalists got a little bit wrong. Because what Ralph Waldo Emerson, he left the Unitarian Church, by the way, because he was kind of disgusted. The reality is actually, honestly, he was a terrible minister. I hate to say, I mean, he was a good speaker. Like, of course, he could speak, right? But how am I going to put it? He was kind of overly dramatic, kind of geeky, and basically he didn't have patience with people. He didn't have pastoral care skills at all. So anyway, so he left. But part of his thing was, well, you don't need the church to have a relationship with God. And that's absolutely true. You do not. But I believe that we do need the church. The job of the church is not to save your soul. It's fine, right? But sometimes our souls get hurt or bruised, or they need healing. We forget how beautiful it is. But here we're reminded in our busy days when our stuff comes piling down on top of us, here is where we are reminded that love constantly calls to us. Here where we are reminded that we are one. We are one humanity, one love, that we are connected. Here's where we learn that we are love incarnate, people. We are love incarnate. It's so easy to forget that. But you know what? That to me is a saving message. So now, what is love calling you to? Let us join Beth as we sing or sway.
Rumors, I invite you to rise, embody your spirit, and clap along with me if you'd like.
Unitarian Universalist congregations are fully self-supporting, meaning that members and friends raise all funds for the operating budget, ministries, and programs of the church. We are ever grateful for your gifts of time, treasure, and talent. OCUUC amplifies that spirit of generosity by sharing 1/2 of the plate we receive with an organization that shares our values. This month, we are supporting Stand Up for Kids. Stand Up for Kids is a nonprofit whose mission is to end the cycle of youth homelessness. You can learn more about them and their mission on their website at www.standupforkids.org. There are multiple ways in which you can support the church and this organization. You can mail a check, you can go through our website, use an app now called Vanco Mobile, or if you're a roomer, you can place your offering in a basket as you leave the service today. Please note that the old App Give Plus is going away September 30th, and you will need to download the new one. The good news is that all your login information and reoccurring payments will stay the same with Vanco Mobile as it is with the same company. So if you haven't already, go download it now. As always, thank you for your generosity.
Everything is sacred. Everything is filled with the divine. Everything is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everything is a wonder. Unfolding right before our eyes. Everything is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everything is a blessing, bursting from the earth and sky. Everything is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everyone is sacred. Everyone is filled with the divine. Everyone's alive with spirit, with spirit. We are alive with spirit. We are alive with spirit, with
And now we invite roomers to sing or sway, and zoomers, you may sing along to We Gather Together, a song that puts our intentions into words and expresses our gratitude for the many gifts we share. We gather together, we gather as one, for peace, love, and justice forever. give from our hearts to show that we care. We can change lives with what we share.
Well, now is that time when we honor the important events and people in our lives, and you are invited, one and all, members, friends, visitors, to participate in this weekly ritual we call Joys or Sorrows. So perhaps you came here today holding something close to your heart, moments from the last days, weeks, or hours. If you'd like to share that with the congregation, you're invited to do so. If you're a roomer, you can write your joy and sorrow on slips that were provided for you, and we have them over there too. You can put them in the basket, and an usher will come by and pick them up. If you're a Zoomer, you can either write your joy or sorrow in the chat. So we'll take a few moments in a spirit of silence as Beth plays some music and the ushers retrieve the baskets. And I'd like to also invite, as you can see, Birdie Reed is up here. She is one of our pastoral care team members. She'll be joining them and lighting the candles for you. So let us take a moment. Our administrator, the Candle of Joy, celebrating the birthdays of her grandchildren, Gabriel and Jordan, who turned 2 and 3 last Thursday, as well as the birthday of her daughter, Hannah Grace. We all seen Hannah grow up in this congregation, who will turn 23 this Thursday. She says, which is also her and her husband's wedding anniversary. She's got a lot going on this week. Let's see here. Linda Clough has a joy to share about the service, that she gets to share this service with her daughter, Valerie. Welcome, Valerie. Glad you're here. Phil Chipman would like a candle lit. He says, I hope that all people with chronic pain experience hope for better things. And Denny Melville writes that she says, positive thoughts for my eye this week. Keep her in your thoughts. Valerie asks that we light a candle for her. And Amelia says she has a concern and request for good thoughts. She said, my very elderly mom is suffering from bronchitis. It's non-COVID, and we hope she can clear it. Sunny Harper offers, she says, last Thursday I had dinner with my amazing younger granddaughter. Always such a pleasure to hear about her life. Yeah, right? Karen Kennedy has a candle of gratitude to Meg Wilson, who came over and helped me pack several big boxes. She's a great packer. Thank you, Meg. And Angie has a sorrow. She says, please send healing thoughts. My mom fell twice this week. I think she is okay. On top of that, poor Angie, she says, I sprained my ankle and I'm on crutches. Oh, Angie, sorry to hear about that. I know also that Ed and Francis Carrata asked us to light a candle of love and hope for family member Mrs. Chun Ko, who is facing serious health issues. I know his brother is also facing some serious health issues. Ginny Chan as a candle of concern for her older brother who has COVID. And Beth Syverson, our Director of Music Ministries, she had quite an incident this last week. She says, a beloved elderly student in my musical theater class sang a song, then fell down and died. Beth says, it was traumatic to witness, but he died while we were all applauding his wonderful performance. He literally finished the last note. I invite you all to join Birdie in a spirit of prayer and meditation.
Spirit of life and love, holy mystery, may we hear the voice within calling us to ask what's possible, to walk to the edge, to shed the fear and need for control, and dance with the infinite for a while. May we hear each other's voices of love and encouragement. May we hear the cries of the world asking us, why do we choose to be? May we be vessels of comfort and compassion. May we be vessels of hope and healing. May we be vessels of peace and justice. May love prevail in the name of all that is holy. Amen and blessed be.
Let us join together as we extinguish the flame of our chalice and say together, we extinguish our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are a congregation made up of people who all believe differently. And yet, when we gather together, whether it's in the room or on Zoom, we make up one loving community. We need not think alike to love alike. If you're a guest, a visitor, or someone who hasn't yet been known to us, I invite you to become a part of this beloved community. We encourage you to either write in the chat or stand for a brief moment and tell us your name and where you are from. We will bring a microphone over and hold it for you so that our Zoomers can hear your name and where you're from.
Oh, cool. Hi, my name is Amy Gebhardt. I'm here today with one of my daughters, Sia, and we live in Huntington Beach, and it was a joy to join you today. Thank you for having us.
Welcome, Amy. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And I don't believe we have anybody on chat either. Thank you. We're always glad to have visitors. If you'd like to know more about our church, including programming for our youth and children, please contact us at hello@ocuuc.org, and we will help you get connected. In addition, we invite you to sign up for our weekly email called The Blast at blast@ocuuc.org. We want everyone to feel a part of this beloved community, so please reach out and we will help you get connected. After the service, we have a short period where everyone, roomers and Zoomers alike, can wave and say hello and welcome any visitors. The Zoomers who remain will be placed into Zoom breakout groups for 20 minutes. We invite you to check in and get to know the people in your group.
Of course, we have some announcements. There's lots of fun things coming up this week as well. We've got our nonfiction book club today. The big thing we've got is our drive-through flu shot clinic that's coming up here in a couple of Saturday, I think a week from this coming Saturday. It's going to be awesome. They do have special shots for people who identify as elderly. They do not have boosters for COVID, but get your regular flu shot too. You know what I'm saying? So come on by there. It's open to everybody. It's free. I think they're going to do a little drive-through like we did last year, which is great. You just stay in your car and they do everything that way. It's really kind of great. We're going to have a lot of other programs that are coming up, so we're going to talk a little bit about that next week. Like our sermon discussion groups are going to be starting back up. Reverend Judy's going to start a dream group if you're interested in that. I've got something in the works around spiritual practices I think will be kind of fun. There's all sorts of really interesting things coming, so keep that in mind as we as in the coming weeks. We start off our new church year. The other thing I want to let you know is, as many of you know, Isa Graves was a wonderful sculpture artist. She passed away a couple of years ago. She left a lot of her sculpture collection to the church, and we've been selling these in support of our new sanctuary. And so there are a few left. They're upstairs in Suite 4, Marilyn Friends. Raise your hand, Marilyn. If you want to see them, she'll open the door for you and you can go up and take a look at them. They're even 15% off now. They want to move these through, but a lot of them have gone already, which is really cool. So I'm really glad that you have a piece of Isa. She was an amazing sculpture artist, and really encourage you to go take a look at those and see if one of them touches you. All right, my people, remember that you are love incarnate. Let's go have some fun and remind other people too. This service is over. Let our service continue. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We have to sing our benediction.
We have to sing
The
our
singer's
song.
way. Sorry.
Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me.
You can see I'm still on summer break a little bit. Yeah. All right, this service is over. Let our service continue. Go be love.